Match day one is in the books in both the Premier League and the Bundesliga, and I want to take a rundown of what we learned from a great weekend of action. I think the first takeaway is the gap is closing, at least in the Premier League, between the top teams and the bottom of the table and those mid-table teams. We saw it with Fulham working a draw from Liverpool. That's not something that would have happened years ago. And I think that's more of a testament to Fulham than it is a knock on Liverpool. I mean, there's going to be these games, but that's my point, is the gap between the top and the bottom is just not what it once was. And the depth in the Premier League is just higher than ever. And it was hardly just Fulham and Liverpool where this was happening. I mean, we had points being won by Brentford and Brighton, Leeds, Bournemouth. I mean, these are all teams that, wouldn't necessarily have expected to win points, but they did. And this is, the bottom half of the table, and they all came away with something on week one. So that's huge. And even, Manchester City against West Ham, they won 2-0, but that was a hard-fought 3 points, and it was not easy for them. They dominated possession, but they did not have a ton of shots on goal. There were opportunities there for West Ham, so this was not a runaway victory by any chance, and there were very few of those in the first week of the Premier League season. So it's becoming very evident that there are not going to be any easy weeks in this season, in this league this season, and that's good. That's good for the product. That's good for fans, and I think that really is helping establish the Premier League as the best league in Europe. Now, City was able to get away with their 3 points essentially thanks to one man, and that's Erling Haaland. Yes, it's a team effort. It's always a team effort with Manchester City, and like I said, they dominated possession against West Ham. But this was a game, and we've seen a lot of these from City over the years, where they dominate possession, they dominate shots on goal, they really control the entire game, but they end up either losing or only getting a draw because they can't finish. Well, it appears that is over, and there was some concern after the cup game against Liverpool that maybe Erling Haaland wasn't right. That was just so stupid. It was just so stupid. He's obviously a well-proven finisher, but 2 goals in the first game is just such a statement from a young player. And what really stood out to me, and I tweeted about this, follow me on Twitter at TotalFIFACM if you don't already, they drew a penalty. Haaland drew the penalty, and he just went and grabbed the ball and went right to the spot. Now, yeah, typically your striker is also your penalty taker, but this is a new guy on a team, and a team that has one of, if not the best player in the world in Kevin De Bruyne, who has taken a lot of the penalties for City over the years as they have struggled big time to find a go-to penalty taker. And Haaland just stepped up and said, nah, this is going to be me, and I'm going to take this. And he drilled it home like it was no big deal, and that was just such a statement. And then later in the game is just a clinical De Bruyne, amazing through ball to Haaland, just a clinical finish, calm, cool, collected. He's for real. That's what we've learned, is Erling Haaland is for real. Now, City is not the team they were in past years. Losing Jesus and Alexander Zinchenko, their depth is not what it was. And they had some guys on the bench who are really unproven. They didn't factor into this game. But City is not the team they've been in the past. They may still lose Bernardo Silva. They do not have the depth they've had in the past. But Erling Haaland is legit. And I think this was a coming out party for him, and all the naysayers can shut up. He's going to be for real. He's going to score his goals, and he's ready for the Premier League. And Haaland's finishing ability could end up being the difference maker in the Premier League this season, simply because we know City's going to be in it. We know Liverpool's going to be right there. I think there's going to be more teams involved this year than there has been in the 2-man races we've had in past years. So, finishing goals is going to be the difference maker, but the Premier League is just deeper this year, and it's coming at the expense of other leagues. So far, we've seen the Bundesliga and Ligue 1 in France kick off. La Liga and Serie A have not started yet. They start next week. But what we've seen in these other leagues is I think the gap is growing between the haves and the have-nots in those leagues because there's been such an influx of talent that has left those leagues to come to the Premier League, and in a lot of cases have come to mid to low table teams and helped raise them closer to the top of the Premier League. But you look at what happened. I mean, Bayern Munich destroyed Eintracht Frankfurt 6-1 this past weekend. And, Frankfurt was mid-table last year, but they won the freaking Europa League. They're not slouches. This is not a nothing. This should not be a 6-1 game. And, Bayern Munich just lost their star striker from the last decade in Robert Lewandowski. Yeah, they're obviously talented, and they're more talented than anybody in the Bundesliga, but 6-1 against Frankfurt, I mean, they destroyed them. And then you look at Ligue 1, and, PSG and Lille combined for, I think, a 9-1 total victory against two recently promoted teams. Well, in the Premier League, the three recently promoted teams ended up 1-1-1 and got a total of 4 points in the first weekend. So there's a huge discrepancy between the top and the bottom in these leagues. And I think what's been good for the Premier League in terms of the top and bottom and that gap closing has really only accentuated that gap in the other leagues. And the other way that gap is closing is because of the utter incompetence of some of the bigger and more affluent teams. And I'm looking at you, Manchester United, who just laid an egg on week one. Erik ten Hag, they looked unprepared, disorganized, and frankly just not good enough. And that part's not on ten Hag. They just don't have the talent they need because they've spent it so poorly. But they just did, everything that could have gone wrong went wrong. He didn't start Cristiano Ronaldo, and he probably shouldn't have based on what happened. But then again, he needs him. And so they have just been an utter disaster, and that is what is allowing this gap to close, is the teams that have the insane amounts of money make mistakes with them and are incompetent and are not putting forth a good product. And that's allowing the other teams who may not have stupid money but have plenty of money to get closer. So United is still a dumpster fire. This week could not have gone worse for them or for Erik ten Hag in his debut, and they really just tripped on and fell on their faces coming out of the gate. So that'll do it for our Matchday 1 recap across Europe. It was a great weekend of football. We can't wait to start hitting some midweek games and cover more action as we go. Thanks as always for joining us here on Pints and Punditry.